Hello there, everybody, and welcome to this week's Weapons of Mordhau, the Maul. In Europe, one of the first recorded uses of the Maul in combat was around the 1400s by French archers. Their mauls, however, were not designed for battle, but were initially tools for pounding stakes into the ground. As things got hairy, they had to improvise, so what better way to bash through armor than with a heavy fucking hammer? Mauls have a much vaster range of size than most other weapons, because of the multitude of definitions for a maul. In short, a maul is a device with a heavy head used for pounding various things, including the skulls of unwanted knights as they attempt to siege your castle. Typically, a war maul was more similar to a poleaxe than to the maul that we see in Mordhau. The weapons would range in length from 4 to 6 feet and typically have a much smaller head than we see in Mordhau, with a mass of 1 to 5 kilograms. This is reassuring, considering how inefficient and cumbersome it would be to fight with a 4-foot sledgehammer when people are swinging agile swords and polearms around you. Furthermore, the force needed to dent armor and damage it, and the person wearing it, was much less than you might expect. Full plate armor is best suited for protecting against bladed weapons, from glancing slashes and stabs that is. That's why it has slopes, to help let the weapon slide away while offering some protection. Stabbing with great force on a flatter part of the armor can make it easy to penetrate it, but smashing a heavy hammer with a small surface area on that point is much more productive. Hence why the maul is one of the best weapons in Mordhau. In Mordhau, the design of the maul is not exactly historically accurate. In fact, as mentioned earlier, the weapons people of the Middle Ages would have called a maul looked more similar to the poleaxe models that we see in Mordhau. The maul in Mordhau has a length of about 3 feet to 4 feet, with heads that are slightly exaggerated in size. Some of the heads used on the maul were identical to their real-life counterparts, but yet again smaller than we see those used in Mordhau. While the maul in Mordhau may not be entirely historically accurate, it is one of the best and most fierce weapons in the game. The maul is one of the most fierce weapons in Mordhau because, with an overhead swing, it will kill you every single time if struck in the head, regardless of whether or not you're wearing armor. In fact, it is the only weapon that can one-hit a level 3 helm wearer with full health. This amazing attribute, however, comes with several cons, the first of which is that the maul is much shorter range than most other weapons, and it has extremely slow wind-up and release in comparison to the other weapons in the game, especially for its side and horizontal slashes. The stab is swift, but it has an even shorter range than the swings. Due to its power, the maul is a weapon you don't want to mess with, and making a stake against it can end your life immediately. One of the primary tactics to utilize when mauling your enemies to death is to rely on that feint. Due to the extremely slow wind-up of the maul compared to other weapons in the game, feints are extremely hard to read. In fact, Saul Goodman and Nosam, two amazing masters of the maul that I recall playing with during the alpha, would feint so much it was nearly impossible to gauge when they would release the damn thing, resulting in many fights when I would get instantly smashed before I knew what was even coming. The slow swing speed of the maul also facilitates some fantastic drag possibilities. Accelerating the maul is very advantageous because most people are used to the slow attack speed, so if you're facing someone not as experienced in battling the maul, you can easily get them with one overhead swing. Another great tactic is morphing with the maul. Because of its slow speed, inexperienced players used to dealing with morphs of other weapons may not even notice that you're about to morph with the maul, thus giving you an advantage. There are two ideal tactics for dealing with maul users, each of which depends on the weapon you are using. If you are using a longsword or a weapon with similar length, your best strat is to outdistance your enemy. Try to trick them by moving forward but then backing up while attacking as they swing at you. When I was first learning to fight Nosam and Saul, I found that me keeping my distance would give me the best results. The other trick is that if you are using a smaller weapon, and hopefully that weapon has a quick attack speed, you can get into the maul user's face and quickly dispatch them. This is much riskier, however, because the maul is best suited for fighting in these close distances. Another general method for dealing with maul feinters is to chamber all of their attacks. Once you do this a couple of times, the maul user often gives up on the feints, depending on their playstyle. Well, now that we have learned a little bit about this beast, let's rank it. The maul is a beast that can end you in a moment's notice. It lacks in terms of range and swiftness, but makes up for this with its power. The maul has no alternate mode, but for a strange surprise, you can toss it at your enemy. Due to its mass, it won't go too far, or be entirely useful. So in general, I wouldn't suggest throwing it. Because of these attributes, I believe that the maul should only receive a 2 out of 5 score in general utility. For dueling, the maul shines. Because of its one-hit potential, inexperienced players are easily wrecked, and this potential also intimidates more adept players. If you become a master and build your character right, you can be a maul god, but this may come at skimping out on armor for some perks. The fact that the Maul is so intimidating is also a great factor that helps facilitate noobs doing well with this weapon. You will often die learning how to use it, but considering how easily you can one-shot people, this thing is great to start out with. For all these reasons, the Maul will get a 4.5 out of 5 stars in terms of dueling effectiveness. This is just because even if you master the Maul, some of the more experienced players in the game, using better suited weapons, may end up owning you. For example, a halberd almost always trumps the Maul. In terms of team play, the Maul is fairly decent. It's not going to be an amazing supportive weapon due to the lack of range, but if used in tandem with other arms, it can wreck hordes of enemy players. It doesn't shine like many of the other weapons in Mordhau, and won't get you 30 plus kills if you're a noob on front lines. So for these reasons, the Maul will only receive a 3 out of 5 star rating. One should also consider that the strength of this weapon makes it more likely to team kill enemies, especially if fighting with them in close range. No one has complained so far, so this week we're just going to stick with looks as our final category. The Mauls in Mordhau are beautiful, but for me, their nonconformity to how they were actually used in history leaves me giving this weapon a 4 out of 5 points in terms of visual appeal. In conclusion, the Maul received a 2 out of 5 star rating in general utility, a 4.5 out of 5 star rating in dueling, 3 out of 5 stars in team play, and 4 out of 5 stars in terms of visual appeal, totaling at 13.5 out of 20 stars, a fairly decent weapon. I believe giving the Maul this score is fair, considering its limitations and strength. The Maul can be great at times, but you really have to hone your skills with it. Well, that's it for this episode, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, like, and comment on this video. Next week, the Weapons of Mordhau episode has already been chosen. It will be the halberd, but go ahead and comment for the weapon that you want in the week after that. The next video to come out will most likely be a guide either on advanced chambering, fighting against shield users, or general combat in Mordhau. I'm also considering starting a series unrelated to gaming, but more or less related to science and physics. I have an addiction to science and wouldn't mind making videos about my favorite science-related topics. If you guys would be interested, go ahead and let me know below. These videos won't affect the Mordhau videos or other gaming videos that I intend to produce, but would simply be in addition to them. Well, I look forward to hearing some feedback from all of you. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.
What?